Alright, so I found this gem on The Guardian, which is just pretty funny because this is one on The Guardian whinging about people correcting them for being dumb. Now, I used to be a pretty big grammar snob only because I wasn't politically correct. We just called ourselves grammar Nazis, basically, because, why not? And so, I don't do it anymore because I was more like when I was a lot younger, but people should speak with good grammar. It makes you sound intelligent. When you speak with bad grammar, it makes you sound dumb even if you're not. So you should try to speak well because when you speak as if you are uneducated, people will think you're uneducated. So let's watch this.
Grammar snobs are patronising, pretentious, and just plain wrong.
Well, patronizing and pretentious they might be, but they're not wrong. They're usually correct about their grammar. They're usually pretty good about it. So just to say that they're wrong, is mildly inaccurate. They're usually right. You just don't want to hear it because it's kind of mean.
Put grammar in front of the word snob, and suddenly some people feel strangely proud.
Well, yeah, because a snob is someone who is pretentious, but they're usually because they're above you in some way. Like snobbery, like class snobbery, where you get like rich snobs that look down upon the poor people. So it's like, in this case of grammar, it's the grammatically correct elite looking down on the grammar grammar poor plebs, I guess. And so when you have when you're going to call them like the elite, of course they would be slightly proud of that. That would make sense.
They shouldn't be. Most grammar
Why not?
means an elite and increasingly outdated form of the English language.
An elite form. You just said it was an elite form. A very good form. The best form. But you're going to say it's outdated because it looks like everyone is becoming dumber, so the language has become dumber to fit with you because you can't understand the rules of grammar. It's too hard. It's too hard.
And they think they're somehow superior because
Well, they are superior. They're better than you at grammar. If all else was equal and they were better than you at grammar, they would be superior. It's the whole if x plus a constant must always be greater than x if the constant is positive. It must always be true. So if everything else is constant and they are better at one thing, no matter how small it is, they will always be better than you.
of it. In most cases, the mistakes being highlighted really don't matter at all.
No, they don't matter. That's the whole point, though, is everyone knew what you meant, but the thing is, you were still wrong. It's the difference between saying, let's say, I'm trying to think of something that's not too obscure. The difference between if you say something is like, if you just say it's 50% better, do you mean 50% more of it? Or do you mean what you have is 50% better? If all you say is that, let's say you say that X is 50% better than Y, do you mean that there's quantitative 50% more? Or is there qualitative 50% better? People will assume you meant that, but if you use the wrong thing in a context which you could only be talking about more objects, people will figure it out, but that doesn't make you right. That's probably not the best example, but it's kind of hard to think of one.
If I look around the room and say there are less people here than I expected, does it really, really need to be pointed out that because people can be counted, I should have said there are fewer people here?
Does it need to be? No. It doesn't really need to be pointed out. No one needs to point out anything. But the thing is with that argument is nobody needs to advance technology. Nobody needs to do anything other than feed themselves in order to keep. You don't have to do that. People starve themselves on purpose. Nobody needs to do anything. Oh wait, is that my grammar snobbery coming through? No, people want to point it out because they want to show you that you're incorrect to be superior. Is that right? Probably not. But if you don't have people like that, then what happens is you devolve the language into the language of peasants, which is what you're currently trying to do. And I don't want my language to make it sound like everyone has to use y'all because apparently y'all is now grammatically correct. Or everyone has to use the word loaned instead of lent money. When you start dumbing down the language and just, oh, we'll just add words to the dictionary that aren't real words because people keep using them wrong. Oh, we should just put ain't in the correct like vernacular. Oh yes, this is great. We'll use words like ain't, y'all, and we'll use all sorts of contractions that aren't necessary and all sorts of other things that don't even make any sense. And we'll just talk like ignorant savages. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Our society will be so good.
The fact is, most of us use the words less and fewer interchangeably. With
Yeah, but that doesn't make it right. That's the whole argument where, oh, because most people in like the 1600s said that slavery was okay, therefore it's okay. No, that's not how that works. Not an argument.
much confusion. I've never been to a supermarket and
Though it is not a quite the best comparison, obviously, because one is like wrong in some way other than like just being incorrect. But that's the line of logic she is using. So I guess it's not a completely fair comparison. So I guess a better comparison would be if everyone in a room says that x equals 2 and you say that x equals 1, that doesn't mean that x equals 2. It could still equal 1. Just because a bunch of people do it doesn't make it fair. That is a much better example.
where shoppers are scratching their heads about the 10 items or less lane. We get it. Some of these
Yeah, but like this argument doesn't hold any water because you just repeated essentially you've repeated what you already said by using an example that's still incorrect.
snobs believe that language evolves but grammar doesn't.
Language evolving is different than grammar evolving because language evolving might be adding new words and the reason languages evolve is because of ignorance. The reason that Latin changed to all the Romance languages and they all split apart is because the people were too ignorant to all learn it correctly. So eventually it starts getting polluted by people's regional accents and such like that, and eventually they start twisting the words and using them incorrectly. And that's why you get multiple different languages that are very similar, branching from each other, that can be traced back to a common ancestor, much like an evolution. But the thing is, that's not beneficial. That's not a good thing. By this logic, you're basically saying what should happen is we should continue to allow American, Canadian, Australian, and British English all start to differentiate themselves more and more from each other until the point where they actually become separate languages. While the words aren't changing in the sense just the grammar, essentially by choosing to use different words is how you get different dialects. You're saying that we should have more dialects, not less. Ideally, in a perfect world, we would have one language and no dialects other than the dominant dialect. That way, everyone can understand each other. And now, some countries, they have a lot of cultural significance to their language, and that's different. But I'm saying, like, if we didn't have any of that, in an ideal world, everyone would speak the same language, kind of like the Tower of Babylon, all that stuff. Ideally, everyone would speak the same language because it's just easier to communicate and there's no misunderstanding. You are advocating for the opposite. You're advocating for that people should speak more dialectically in more languages. I don't see how that's beneficial.
That's not true. It was once considered incorrect to start a sentence with words like and or but.
It's still incorrect to start a sentence with and. But, though, depending on how you use it, I can see why. And that one was always one I was not a fan of that. But at the same time, if you keep doing that, all you do is butcher the language more and more and more until it just becomes the most plebby, disgusting sounding language. And it's awful. The proper English doesn't sound bad. It sounds good and it sounds intelligent. Maybe that's just my own bias, but when you use words like ain't and y'all, it just sounds nasty. I hate that. I hate when people say y'all. I hate when people say ain't. Just you're advocating for everyone to say y'all and ain't. Ugh, gross. And start all their sentences with and but. So I bet this person wants us to talk like, oh, and so like I literally can't even. That's the language you're advocating for.
And what about the rule that the standard pronoun in writing should be he? There are
The universal he is because If you assume he, then you'll never call a man a woman. And for most of history, calling a man a woman was probably a worse crime than calling a woman a man. Because let's say you're living in the 12th century and you call your feudal lord a she, you're gonna die. But you call some peasant woman a he, nobody's gonna look at anything. You could start a fight by calling a guy a girl, but you probably won't start a fight by calling a girl a guy. That's basically the reason, as far as like I understand it. You just assume because one of them is a much bigger problem if you get it wrong than the other one. Just pretty simple.
It's like people say that we need some sort of a common language, a set of rules that everyone can understand.
Yeah, exactly. We do. If you have a bunch of different rules and no one's following any sense of grammar, then nobody's actually speaking exactly the same language. But if you teach everyone the rules of grammar and the language will stay more unified and you'll get less dialects and it will fall apart less. Now, I'm not a linguist. Well, that's how I understand it. Because I've taken Spanish. I know enough about like Italian and French to notice that they're quite different from Latin. But at the same time, they're all similar, and probably, had people been more educated, we probably would still have Latin as a language, not French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and I don't know if there's any other ones. And then you have different dialects of Spanish from, like, Spain is quite different Spanish now than from Latin America, because guess what? Spanish is sitting there in their own little bubble of Spanish, developing their own vernacular, and in relatively isolated parts of Latin America, they're developing their own Spanish as well. So then they start to diverge. But if you have some sort of unity, then people can understand each other better, and that's good.
But all too often, they conveniently overlook the fact that the rules they're talking about aren't commonly held at all.
Yeah, right, but that's not an argument, because just because nobody follows the rules does not mean that they should be broken. It's kind of like underage drinking. A lot of people do it, but that doesn't make it necessarily good just because it happens. It just means that people are unwilling to enforce it because it's so pervasive. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be enforced. And sometimes it is. It's the same thing. Occasionally the cops will give you a citation, just like occasionally someone will correct your grammar. Well, this is a little bit different for me because I don't think underage drinking really should be that much of a problem. I think grammar should actually be a bigger problem because I don't like it when you sound like an ignoramus all the time.
They're just their rules. Take the word
Their rules, like you're creating some sort of outgroup so you can, oh, their rules, as if grammar only applies to them. Oh, shut up. Come on, man. There's no reason that it should ever just be grammar is for them, those guys. No, grammar is for everybody, and the, the more you use grammatically correct language, the better it is for a society because more people can understand you. But if you use grammatically incorrect language, you create confusion because the people that hold the grammar can't understand you. The only people that can understand you when you use really bad language is the people that use the same kind of bad language.
literally, for example. I
Lit-
literally don't care if I'm using the word
Oh my god, she actually used this example I was making fun of earlier.
literally in the correct way, according to some.
The thing is, when you say literally, or as I guess she said, literally, uh, then people assume you actually mean literally, unless people would know that right now in common vernacular, ignorant white girls say literally can't even, or wow, Donald Trump is literally Hitler. And then people are like, no, he's not. The only person that's Hitler is literally Hitler. Like, literally, the person that is Hitler is Hitler. Figuratively, Donald Trump can be Hitler. But for some reason, people have forgotten this word figuratively. It's like fallen out of the language. Donald Trump could be figuratively Hitler in your opinion, but he can never be literally Hitler because only Hitler is literally Hitler.
Elizabethan definition of correctness, and neither does the Oxford Dictionary. They're just
Oxford Dictionary is like garbage though. Yeah, the driver took it literally when asked to go straight across the traffic circle. Yeah. This informal, we shouldn't be using these informal things. The thing is, when you use informal language all the time, at certain groups we use the informal language more. Essentially, what could even end up happening is you use that your grandparents would be speaking a different language than you because your vernacular is so bad and it's just so corrupted. The reason that a lot of languages start evolving from other languages is from corruption of the language by ignorant people. You are corrupting the language by using bad things like this, and the dictionaries are just going along with it. The dictionary should just not add this shit. I don't get it. Like when people just invent words like manspreading, that's an invented word. It has no meaning. You just took man and spread to say that man that spread. That's not even creative. So no,
They
don't do
updated
that.
the definition of the word to reflect modern usage. It doesn't.
No, they didn't update the definition of the word. They included the definition of the word because it would be so confusing if you didn't know what they meant. Let's say you were a foreigner, you didn't speak English, and you're trying to learn it, and then someone says he's literally Hitler. And they like don't get it. So then they can open the dictionary to see, oh, in this informal slang, that's what this means. Because guess what? It doesn't make any sense unless you knew that it was slang. Because that word is not used that way. So when you say things that don't make any sense, people have to, guess what? Look it up.
Doesn't take much to see the power imbalance when it comes to grammar snobbery.
Oh my god, it's all about power, isn't it? Did you know that knowledge is power, and since they hold knowledge over you, that's why they have the power, so maybe you should educate yourself. Shit, Lord. I mean, what? I think that might be unrelated. No, but you should be educated enough that they can't do that, because you would already know it's incorrect. Like, sometimes I make the grammatical mistake. The one I make all the time is I'll say, me and my friends go, or something like that. Or, instead of my friends and I go, even though correct it's my friends and I go to the movie because you always say the other person or group first rather than the group you are in or you yourself. So, yes, I make grammatical mistakes and so does everybody else, but you should strive to not make them, not accept them and just run with it and just make them even worse. Just throw it all out the window. Just get rid of abolish grammar. Just the thing this is the kind of movement that's it's the reason I picked this video is because it's kind of synonymous with social justice and the fat acceptance movement. Instead of trying to do something about it, you should just let it fly. No, you should always try and improve yourself and perfect yourself. This willing like, oh, we'll just like let it get worse because why not? No, you should always be trying to get better, and you should always be trying to improve yourself and you should always be learning more and while you might not you don't have infinite time so you can't always be learning and doing work and stuff but you should always be trying to learn something new every day and stuff like that instead of this where it's just like let yourself be an uneducated fat ugly unlikable pleb because you know what people should just accept you for that and you'll find that once this movement or fad passes because I bet it will, that then all of a sudden you're frumpy, you're unlikable, you don't have anything in common with anyone else, you're not intelligent enough to have any rational discourse, and then you're just sad. But now you're too old to do anything about it because you have so many years of catching up to do, and so then you really do have to probably give up because you kind of made yourself out of the loop. It's kind of like the, 45-year-old hippie that's so burnt out and like their brain's a little bit fried from all like the LSD and the pot and stuff like that. And then they want to get a real job now. Time to start my life now, and they realize that they're just a little late. Nobody really wants a 45-year-old with no job experience, and now they've kind of pushed themselves too late out of the game. It's the same thing. This is what this would cause. Is eventually you're too late.
The people pointing out the mistakes are more likely to be older, wealthier, whiter, or just plain academic.
And these are bad things. Why? So basically, your intellectual superiors, who are the intelligentsia and the wealthy, the noble, aristocratic people, are telling you that you sound like a dirty pleb, and you're like, well, this is problematic. Instead of being like, you're right, I do sound like a dirty pleb. And these people seem to be quite successful. They're smart. I'm just gonna throw out the white thing. I don't even know what's about white. It's probably unrelated because I bet in the United States a lot of the wealthy people are white. So you know what? Just throw that out there. It's correlation, I would assume. So it's going to be the people that are rich and successful and smart, and you don't envy these people. You shun them. These are the people you should strive to be. Instead, you're saying that they're wrong because they're successful. No, that doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry.
Then the people they're treating with condescension.
Yes, that's usually what happens. Usually you don't condescend to people that are better than you. That would make no sense. You can't condescend to people that are better than you. I can't, like, go up to, like, my professors and be like, you know what, you're just really dumb. And I bet I'm smarter than you. Because I know that all my professors, yeah, I guess I have one that's not very smart. You know, but most of my professors are really good at what they do. And so I cannot condescend to them because they're better than me. They could intellectually slap me around. Now, in some arenas, I might be better in some aspects, but overall, I bet they're better than me in their subject of choice, because that's why they teach it. I might be better at philosophy, let's say, than like my chemical engineering professor. I mean, yes, that's quite possible, but I don't actually know, and there's no way for me to know.
All too often, it's a way to silence people.
No, you don't silence them. You say you're dumb, and therefore your opinion has less valid until you prove that you were smart again. Because basically, it's like this: when you have you're doing math problems on the board, right? Somebody gets it wrong, and everybody laughs at them because they got an either one. Let's say everybody's doing like, x plus 2 equals 4. What is x? Everyone writes as 2, and you write that as 74. You're not even close. And everyone is just like, damn, dude, this guy's really dumb. And so, in order now to prove that you are not actually dumb, you need to get something right. Or everyone's gonna think you're dumb. You get the next one dumb. It might be your people might think you're dumb for the rest of your life. You get the next one wrong, so you better get the next one right. And it's the same thing with this. It's not a tactic of silencing people. It's people have demonstrated that you are ignorant and you are dumb. And so, if you speak like an ignoramus, people will come to the assumption that you are actually dumb. You need to prove that you are not actually dumb and you are just choosing to speak like you're ignorant. My mother kind of has some of this problem because she grew up in a poor family and she doesn't speak with very good English. And so sometimes she'll say something that's just grammatically awful and I'll just cringe. And it's not her fault, but she's a smart person. And so she can prove to people that she's indeed smart through her other actions, that she is bright and she just speaks ignorantly. And so she doesn't have to worry about this problem where you're like, oh, they're going to silence me by just saying my grammar is bad. They will only silence you if your grammar is bad, your points are bad. It's just another thing to add on. Essentially, when you speak dumb, imagine it's like a -1 to whatever your point tally would be for your argument. So now you need to have an extra part of argument in order to show people that you're not actually dumb. Because if you just do what everyone else does, and you did this, you're now slightly worse than everybody else. So you need to go above and beyond now to rectify this, or you could just speak smart. It's not a silencing tactic. It's just, it might happen that if you only had one point of argument and this was -1, therefore they cancel and your argument is moot. Because people, the one astute point, like, they'll just assume it's an accident or something. This really dumb guy can stumble on something correct occasionally. Alright, let's move on.
It's particularly offensive when it's someone who might already be struggling to speak up.
How is it offensive if they're struggling to speak up? Let's say you're really dumb, and you speak up, and people laugh at you for being dumb. It's not offensive. It is maybe mean, but in offense, offensive wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. Maybe it's because you don't understand the English language. But the thing is, the people that are struggling to speak up, and I'm not like part of a weird collectivist ideology where everyone deserves to be heard. Some people don't, their opinions don't matter because, one, they might already be represented. Everything they have to say could be represented by someone more intelligent who is already speaking up. Therefore, their opinion has already been represented and does not need to be represented again. You do not need an. This is not a true democracy in the United States Republic. You don't go to everyone and ask their opinion. You have people elect people that share the same opinions of them, who are more eloquent, better speakers, and probably more intelligent than the average person. Although I don't, politicians being more, I don't know about that. But that's the whole point. And that's where republics are derived from, is you get representatives who are better at representing you than you are because they might be more eloquent, they know the points better, they're experts in the field, etc., etc. And so when you say, "Oh no, poor Billy's voice has been silenced," well, of course it was silenced. His voice is dumb, and somebody else has a better way of saying it. So he doesn't himself need to say it. He should have the satisfaction in that his opinion is being represented, just not by him. So this doesn't matter, and only with weird like collectivist ideology does this matter.
We should spend more time listening to what others have to say.
No, other people are dumb. Why would we listen to them? I mean, what? No, the reason is that other people might have the same opinion as some other people. Like you might have another party. Like let's say you have 40 people and they all agree. You'll need to listen to one of them because they all agree. So that's why you don't have to listen to everybody because once it's represented, they have nothing to add. I'm sure that's happened when everyone's raising their hand in a discussion, and then you put your hand down after somebody asks the question you're gonna ask, or raises the point you were gonna raise because they already said it. Therefore, you don't need to say it too. Oh, but I need my voice to get heard. Ask the same question again. People that ask the same question again are usually called dumb. Just a secret.
Unless focusing on the grammar what they say is.
No, we should focus on grammar. That's pretty important. I mean, the amount of people in this college that can't read or write is pretty high. The Guardian, the whole picture. God, the Guardian's awful. All right, so just find a dumb face to pause it on. Oh, that looks pretty dumb. All right, so the reason I went over this is because it's this weird thing where we need to go to the lowest common denominator. Some people are too dumb to speak proper English, or too ignorant. Maybe they're not even dumb. They're just too ignorant to speak properly. Never learned it. Never went to school. Whatever. Barely can read and write. So instead, to not make those people feel bad, we're gonna say that nobody should be able to read and write because they can't do it. That will be the collapse of our civilization. Completely ridiculous. There's absolutely no reason at all that we should ever do that. So, yeah. So this argument is just ridiculous, but it was published in an opinion by the Guardian. So it's technically not the Guardian. Just the fact that they publish an opinion that this garbage is appalling. Just look at that face. Look how, and as if she doesn't look like a pretentious snob. Like she looks so pretentious. Like look at all it, like jewelry and like. I don't need a Sarkeesian earrings. I can't tell if they're. Yeah, oh my god, I didn't even realize that Nita Sarkeesian was speaking to me. All right. Yeah, I don't know. This is so ridiculous, and this is why being a grammar Nazi is not that bad because somebody needs to do it. It's kind of like garbage worker. If nobody corrects the grammar, then we just get the decay of the English language. It just falls apart eventually, and it will fall apart into multiple other languages. Now, will this take time? Yes, but considering our education system, at least here in the US, is falling through the floor, maybe it will only happen in about 100 years. Oh boy. Thanks, Guardian, for helping the English language destroy itself.